Hey guys, I'm recording this on April 19th, 2025, and the long-awaited RFK assassination files have just been released. Oh, now we know everything. All is revealed, right? What a load of baloney. I'm going to go through the report from The Guardian. I like The Guardian because they are absolutely a pure propaganda vehicle. So whatever you see in The Guardian, you know, is what is being told to everyone on Earth. So, by the way, oddly, I'm getting a lot more traffic now that I'm only publishing once a week. So I was knocking myself out for nothing. Go figure. Anyway, to all our supporters, thank you very much. You're now going to get the best analysis of the bogus JFK file release on the internet coming up right now. Okay, here it is. I'm going to read it. We're going to line by line. About 10,000 pages of records. Well, that's a great way to make sure nobody can find anything relevant. Just release 10,000 pages. That's a lot of pages, guys. So if there is anything in there, good luck finding it. By the way, that's what lawyers do. Uh, Not a surprise. Right? If you don't want somebody to find something, you send them a container ship load full of paper. And maybe the truth is in there somewhere, but they'll never find it. All right. That's a minor point. Let's go to some of the major points. Apparently, Sirhan uh, wrote that Kennedy, quote, must be disposed of. All right, we'll get to that a little bit later. The unredacted files, well, they of the JFK assassination were disclosed. That's already we're in the paragraph number 2, and they're inaccurate. I mean, these guys do this for a living. They get paychecks. Like this is all they need to do. They don't have to do anything else. They don't have to make an honest living and then report in their spare time, their so-called spare time. But these guys can't even get the most basic thing right. The files that were released recently were redacted. So I don't know what they're talking about. Um, the earlier documents gave curious readers more details about Cold War covert actions. Well, it's something. We got something out of them. Uh, but they sure didn't give any information about the assassination. But I love this line, and this line comes straight from Langley, straight from the PR department at Langley. The new files did not initially lend credence to the long circulating conspiracy theories about who killed JFK, RFK's brother. How do I get rid of this ad? Do you really want to be looking at that? Oh my God. What is this thing? Okay, whatever. All right, so then after getting it wrong and then dissing conspiracy theories, and here they are going on and on about Trump, of course. Oh, I'd love to be able to get rid of this. There's no way, is there? Okay. Anyway, back to the business. They're giving us plain vanilla facts, shot on June 5th. We got that. Thank you, Ambassador Hotel. We got that. After giving the speech, we got that. Well, we know Sirhan was convicted of first-degree murder and is serving life in prison. Okay, so the files in Sirhan's notes include the following. RFK must be disposed of like his brother was. All right, let's just stop there. And we're going to come back to this point several times, but repetition is the mother of learning. RFK must be disposed of like his brother was. Who talks like that? Who writes like that? If you were faking, if you were an idiot, cop, or intelligence officer, and you wanted to fake somebody's suicide note, or in this case, assassination note, this is how you'd write it. RFK must be disposed of like his brother was. By the way, why would an Arab fellow, which Sirhan was, hate the Kennedys? Why? When John F. Kennedy, we've talked about this, but I'm the only one talking about it on the whole internet. So maybe the day that other people start talking about it, I'll stop talking about it, and then everybody can declare they invented it, which is fine. Go ahead, knock yourselves out, guys. But meanwhile, nobody's talking about this. The Kennedys were very pro-Arab. All right. They weren't anti-Israel. They weren't anti-Semitic, but they were very pro-Arab world. How do we know that? Because JFK, the brother of RFK, spent political capital when he was a senator in the 1950s, getting on the Senate floor and saying the U.S. should stop supporting France's genocidal war. He didn't use those terms, but it was a genocidal war in Algeria. Okay? That's number one. Number two, when finally de Gaulle pulled the plug on that genocide, that multi-decade genocide going back to the 19th century, the Algerians had an election. They voted a guy in as president. And what did Kennedy do? Kennedy put on one of the most lavish receptions in the history of his White House and probably any White House, honoring this Arab leader, this guy who fought back against the European forces and liberated his country. So why would a politically motivated Arab like Sirhan decide he needed to kill Kennedys? We got to, but again, that language, RFK must be disposed of like his brother was. Um, and he wrote it on the back of an envelope. Okay. All right. Fine. All right. He also filled a Pasadena College notebook. Okay. Notice they say a page of a Pasadena College notebook. Got to read these things carefully. He did go to Pasadena City College. Did they say it's his notebook? Or was there a Pasadena City College notebook with all this stuff written in it? Okay, very important distinction. And oh, apparently he dated because all assassins keep diaries and date their entries of when they intend to kill. Now here's the next one. My determination to eliminate JFK is becoming more of an unshakable obsession. Really, that's what a 20-something-year-old guy in the 1960s, that's how people wrote in LA. You know what this sounds like to me? A hypnotic suggestion. Okay, flip this now. Now imagine somebody telling him this, right? If you've ever studied hypnosis, you know that this is how it's done. If you haven't studied it, you don't know. Can't give you a course in hypnosis right now. But yeah, what the hypnotist has done is he's created a phrase for the client. He's put it in the first person. So when the client says it to himself, it can feel and sound like it's coming from the person himself. So for example, my determination to stop smoking is becoming more of an unshakable obsession, right? Stop smoking, eat less, exercise more, just fill in the blank. So nobody talks like this except hypnotic operators who are working on people. All right? All right, next paragraph. In another of the newly released documents, the assassin said he advocated the overthrow of the current president. Oh my God. Um, why? Did he give any basis for that? I have no absolute plans yet, but soon we'll compose them. Who talks like that? Who writes like that? And he pledged support to communist Russia and China. Shades of Lee Harvey Oswald, right? This guy was like not even a jockey. He wasn't a jockey, that's for sure. He was like a stable guy. But he's going to pledge support for communist Russia and China. Okay, so we're going to get onto that bullshit in a minute in more detail. The new release files also include notes from interviews with people who knew Sirhan from a wide variety of contexts, such as classmates, neighbors, and coworkers. Some describe him as a friendly, kind, and generous person. Probably that's what he was. Others depicted him as brooding and impressionable. A lot of people are, especially young people. Now here's the last piece. Who felt strongly about his political convictions and briefly believed in mysticism. Okay, put on the brakes there, guys. This fellow, Sirhan, had a best friend, childhood friend, who went to Pasadena City College, by the way, who was highly political. He was actually, I think, the leader of the SDS chapter on campus. They hung out together, and he said, this is Sirhan's best friend, Sirhan didn't have a political bone in his body. Okay? But now we have people undescribed, unnamed, unsourced, who say he felt strongly about his political convictions. Yet his best friend, by the way, all this is in the book. You have the book, I hope by now. The book is called RFK and JFK's Secret Battle Against Zionist Extremism. We have 15,000 words that tell you exactly what team of people killed Kennedy, the Kennedys, and why. And it's not anything you saw in Oliver Stone's JFK or in 10,000 conspiracy research community members. It's new stuff. All right, so depicted as brooding, blah, 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 impressionable, blah, 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 felt strongly about his political convictions, wrong, complete lie. And notice they're not giving a source for that. And then they also say he briefly believed in mysticism. No, this guy was obsessed with mysticism. He was obsessed with self-hypnosis. Uh, this was probably the most important thing to him in his life. And he had a hypnotic handler who spent night and day with him. His family testified to that. They were concerned about the relationship. They thought it was weird. They thought the guy was weird, and this guy was attached to Sirhan like an extra rib. But of course, that's not in this newly released files as published by The Guardian. And then I love this. According to the files, Sirhan told his garbage collector that he planned to kill Kennedy shortly after Martin Luther King was assassinated. I'm planning to shoot the son of a bitch. Really, that's a normal conversation. I don't know, man. Again, who's the garbage collector? I could sort of see having a conversation with your garbage collector, but you know what? Those guys are moving pretty fast. Anybody ever? Maybe you live in I mean, I live in a super small, you can't live in a smaller town than me. The guys that come around and collect the garbage, they're moving. They are not sitting around, hey, let's stop the truck for a bit and have a random chat with somebody. You know, it was the 60s, maybe it was a slower time of life, but we're talking about LA here. So this whole story of, oh, I just had a chat with my garbage collector, I don't know, man. And he's unnamed. All right, what else do we have here? FBI documents describe interviews with a group of tourists who had heard rumors about Kennedy being shot weeks before his death. Several people who visited Israel in May of 1968 said a tour guide told them Kennedy had been shot. One person said he heard that an attempt on Kennedy's life had been made in Milwaukee. Another heard that he was shot in Nebraska. This is called a red herring, by the way. Yeah, they posted 229 files to their public website. Many of them had been previously released. Well, then how is it a new release, guys? Come on, basic logic, please. But others had not been digitized and sat for decades in federal government storage facilities. I mean, I can believe that, but why didn't Trump do it first term? Why didn't Joe Biden do it? Why didn't the great Barack Obama? Why didn't he do it? Why didn't Bill Clinton do it? We're just talking about scanning some stuff. All right, Trump, a Republican, we didn't know that. Thanks. Has championed in the name of transparency. Yeah, tell me another one. The release of documents related to high-profile assassinations, but he's also been deeply suspicious for years of the government's intelligence agencies. Well, I hope that he is. I hope that any person with an IQ over 10 is. His administration's release of once hidden files opens the doors for additional public scrutiny and questions about the operations and conclusions of institutions such as the CIA and the FBI. Well, if you're releasing nothing, there will be a lot of discussion. There'll be a lot of discussion about nothing. All right, what else do we have here? What a year, huh? Kennedy killed. I mean, King killed, and then 2 months later, Kennedy killed. You think things are bad now? Things were bad back then. All right, Lawyers for Kennedy have said he's unlikely to reoffend or pose a danger to society. Um, the parole board said he was suited, he could go, but Newsom rejected the decision. Yeah. Um, if there's a wrong thing to do, Gavin Newsom will do it. If there's a wrong thing to do in the service of corrupt power, Gavin Newsom will do it. And then another panel denied him release, saying this is interesting, he lacks insight into what caused him to shoot Kennedy. Well, why aren't they letting him out? Because you do not want a skilled psychotherapist, and there are some, most of them are buffoons, but there are some, one with serious hypnosis therapy experience. You do not want one of those people getting to spend lots of time with Sirhan, because one of them did. We did a whole video about it. A fellow named Daniel Brown, who was a professor at a little place called Harvard Medical School, and a internationally renowned expert on trauma and on hypnosis and on some other things too. And Daniel Brown spent a lot of time with Sirhan, and he said he'd never seen anybody so susceptible to hypnosis in his entire career. And Daniel Brown, unfortunately, has passed away. One of the brightest, most positive people who ever lived, and a totally non-bullshit guy. And he knew what he was talking about. So that's why they're not letting him out. That's why they're not letting Sirhan out. Why they didn't kill him already, I don't know. It's very odd. All right, so late senator, yeah, son, RFK Jr., blah, blah, blah. Commended the president and his director of national intelligence. Yeah, what else is he going to do? For their courage? Excuse me, he's president of the United States. She's director of national intelligence. What courage is involved? What dogged efforts are involved? Give me a break. Pick up the phone. You tell people to do it or pack their bags and leave. So I'm not going to bust Bobby Kennedy's chops because he's doing some very important work. When he ceases to do that very important work, I will bust his chops mercilessly. Lifting the veil on the RFK papers is a necessary step toward restoring trust in the American government. This article is a complete steaming load of bullshit. But here they are. There's their little ad. Why you can rely on The Guardian not to bow to Trump or to anyone. Well, we will bow to the people creating a false narrative about the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. So I think you get the idea. I'm not even going to bother to read. This actually might have come from the Associated Press. Maybe I'm just reading an Associated Press reprint. Oh my goodness, that's embarrassing. Let me see. Yeah, you know what? No, Betsy Reed. No. Betsy Reed's shilling for more money for Guardian. I hope nobody gives the Guardian money. No, none of our subscribers are so foolish as to give money to a propaganda outfit. Let them find someone new to shake down that they can get free money from. All right, let's see. Let's go back. Guardian AP. Oh, my fault. But this tells you, you realize the AP is the source of all lies, right? Everybody knows that, right? We've done shows on it. You can go back over 100 years and you can read the book called, believe it or not, someone wrote a book called The Brass Check 100 years ago. Were they predicting us? Probably not. But that's Upton Sinclair. And he gave the whole history of the AP. And someday we might republish it because I believe it's in the public domain. And he explains that the AP was designed specifically to control the U.S. news media, because what you have is a bunch of lazy so-called journalists and editors, and it's a lot easier just to rip and read. So the AP comes out with the lie. Oh, here we go, Josh Funk. Let's see what else. Here we go. That's interesting. If you have time to do this and dig a little, it's endlessly entertaining. So the guy that wrote the AP article, which the Guardian just reprinted and every other idiot outlet is going to reprint, is a business writer, And God bless him. We need business writers who specializes in major freight railroading. And you know what? That's a really important part of our economy. And God bless this guy for doing this job. He also covers Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway. That's pretty easy to do. And you do that by going to the annual event every year and writing it up. So I have a feeling if we did a deep dive into old Josh Funk, that he may not be fully a professional journalist. Okay, he may be a guy that somebody has placed in the AP and given a little bit of busy work to do, not much, because God knows covering our railroad industry is not something that appears in the business press very often. And going once a year to Warren Buffett's, big convention, his investors convention, that was that it's about 5 days of work. And then I'm saying you could probably 1 8 hour day a month, you could probably do a really good analysis of the railroad industry. So what is Josh Funk doing when he's not writing about, well, when he's not writing propaganda? I don't know. Now, who is this? Who's this Haya? That's a great name, man. Let's check it out. Well, okay. I'm not laughing at her. She's a young person striving to do her best in the world. Okay. She This is a veteran, okay? Just want you to know this is a veteran journalist because obviously this is a really important story. We're talking about the murder in cold blood of a U.S. senator, right? Who was probably going to be president of the United States, brother of the president who was assassinated. So when we talk about figuring out who killed him, we're going to call Haya Punjwani, who graduated from the University of Houston 3 years ago. All right. And NPR. She's a little NPRer. And she probably has, let's go to her LinkedIn page. And again, not mocking her. Anybody that's got a job and working, okay. So now she's she's graduated from NPR, the bullshit capital of the universe, to the AP, which is beyond the bullshit capital of the universe. So let's look at her. Okay, so she reported for Houston Public Media. Then she was a social media manager. Okay, that means posting to Facebook, rehash stories that somebody else wrote. Then she was a reporter for public something or other in Austin, Texas. And now, not long ago, she got a job at the AP. And what does she do? She writes, edits, and voices stories and scripts and selects and edits newsworthy actualities for the API hourly newscast. So we have a story of some import, and it's written by a guy who I have a feeling is, I don't know, got other things to do besides work for the AP. And then we have this new hire that's barely out of college. And do you think when you team up a guy who looks a little shady with a young person out of college, you can get them to say anything you need them to say? So God bless the AP, the greatest source of lies in the universe. You could get the book JFK and RFK's Secret Battle Against Zionist Extremism and find out, because let me give you the punchline to all this. Okay? Let me address you face to face. Okay. So when they arrested Sirhan, okay, and again, they were like, I don't have the numbers handy, but there were like 12 gunshots. He had what was it, a 22 revolver that had, I think, 8 bullets in, so where did the 12 shot, there were things in the ceiling. And of course, Kennedy was shot in the back of the head. That's indisputable. I got to ask this basic question. How do you shoot someone in the back of the head when you're standing in front of them? And he was shot here. Okay. and there was a guard that just happened to be a guard. So first Sirhan did his little pantomime. He probably didn't even know what he was doing because he's a highly hypnotizable guy. There was probably no lead in those bullets, so it was just noise. Everybody looked at him, and then his protector, God help you, with the bodyguards, gotta make sure nobody's infiltrated your bodyguard unit. And the bullet was here, right? So if you want to slyly shoot somebody in the back of the head standing behind them, would you do this? No, because you're kind of like showing yourself off. You would just you just stand behind them, right? You just stick the gun right behind the ear. Nobody would even see it, especially if they're looking over there. So that's how Robert F. Kennedy died. So we know Sirhan didn't do it, but we know somebody brought Sirhan there to make noise. And that's what the book is about many things. The final chapter in the book goes into this in the nth degree. But here's the punchline of this whole thing. In Sirhan's pocket was a news clipping about how RFK was, along with every other Democratic hopeful, approving of some weapons system that was being sent to Israel. This clipping, I think, was 3 weeks old. I don't know. It wasn't a new clipping. Let's put it that way. Question. If you clip something out of the newspaper and put it in your pocket and carried it around for weeks, what kind of condition do you think it would be in? Newsprint's really sturdy, right? This thing was pristine. Why would there be a pristine clipping about Kennedy sending weapons to Israel in the pocket of the guy who didn't shoot RFK, who was just sent there to make noise? I mean, did he have it sitting on his dresser drawer for 3 weeks, let's say, and at the last minute, grab it, put it in his pocket? We all know what happened. When they were dressing him, getting him set up, someone just put that in his pocket. Now, why would you put that in his pocket? To give motive. And what was the motive? Well, we've got an Arab, a Palestinian, shooting a supporter of Israel. And they didn't do much with that. They tried to. If you go back and read the original headlines, and even while Kennedy was still alive, because he didn't die right away, there were headlines that came out while Kennedy was still breathing. Print headlines, not internet bullshit, actual print. And they were going, oh, anti-Semitic, anti-Israel, Palestinian, Arab, did it. I think most of our audience can understand what happened here, right? Just like and it's really interesting. I'll say the one thing interesting about this AP bullshit is they're now talking about, oh, yes, Sirhan was a fan of communist China and the Soviet Union. Really? He had no political, according to his best friend, he didn't have a political bone in his body, and now all of a sudden he's going to wave the flag for China and Russia? Okay, that's really interesting. It's bullshit packed on bullshit, delivered by our good friends at the AP, and everybody's going to swallow it, and everybody. Let's see how many people republished it. That's useless. There we go. Can I go back? I can't. All right. Yeah. So it's a little bit like our good friend Lee Harvey Oswald, right? He loves Russia. He's on the Fair Play to Cuba committee, even though in his spare time he's doing combat training for an invasion of Cuba. Yeah, did you know that? Did you know that David Ferry and was flying planes to Cuba back and forth with weapons to the would-be insurgents? You didn't know that, did you? Did you know there was a covert ops um, special forces training facility on Lake Pontchartrain? That's the big lake just north of New Orleans, or I mean, it touches New Orleans, there. It's big there, right? And then there's New Orleans right there. Did you know that? And I can't remember that guy's name, the famous drug pilot who was murdered by Colombian drug dealers, and he happened to have uh, George Bush Sr.'s phone number in his book, in his pocket. Um, I just can't think of his name, but that guy was also flying arms to uh, Cuba. He wasn't just flying drugs around, right? And the reason he was able to get away with flying drugs for so long is that he was flying arms down to the Contras and but anyway, it's the same thing. It's oh, he's a communist. Lee Harvey Oswald is a communist. Uh, Sirhan is a communist, but he's also anti-Israel and anti-Semitic too. He's a busy guy, busy guy. Never had a political bone in his body, according to his best friend, but he had so much time to develop political um, philosophies. You know, anti-Israel, pro-China, pro-Russia. RFK must die. Um, just it's just nuts. And if you get the book, if you haven't gotten it, read the darn thing. Learn what's going on in the world around you. There's no reason to be mystified by any of this stuff. Um, they wanted to hang the killing of Robert F. Kennedy on a Palestinian for a good reason. Remember, this was 68. What happened in 67? Oh, yeah, the USS Liberty. Oh, yeah, maybe people were waking up to how ridiculous it is for the United States to be backing a genocidal, homicidal, larcenous uh, political cult. Uh, anyway, that's the news. Not much more to say. To everybody that supports us, thank you very much. Really helps. It's encouraging. It lifts morale. And weirdly, we're getting, believe it or not, 3 times as much traffic as I used to get when I published every day. So I am mystified. Might be a aberration, an anomaly, but in any event, I'm happy to take it. And again, thanks for supporting. Share the channel. We're doing, I got to make a living, so I have to focus on that. And so I'm doing less of this because God knows this doesn't make a living. Um, but share it, let people know about it because that's the only way people learn about this channel. And again, watch a lot of stuff for the next week or month and see if anybody mentions any of these points. And believe me, the chapter's 15,000 words long. I've only scratched the surface. Why aren't people? I mean, it's bit by bit. I have to say, I'm getting little chances here and there. And someday, I guarantee 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years from now, everybody will know this. Um, it'd be better if they knew it now, right? Rather than knowing it later. But as they say, time is nature's way of keeping everything from happening all at once. So you have to be patient because things aren't going to happen all at once. But again, to all our supporters, thank you very much. I haven't abandoned you. I hope you know. I just, I got to make a living like everybody else. And unfortunately, Brass Check wasn't doing it. Not that I ever intended it to, but it's, I can't, here's the deal with life, right? You can't both work for free and make a living because there's only 168 hours of time in a week and you have to sleep. So I've opted for, I seem more relaxed, right? More healthy. I've opted for that. All right. Anyway, that's it. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.